Hey there guys, welcome back to another episode of Monster Super League. It's your boy Odin, and today I wanted to go over gems and essentially how to gem your monsters. Of course, this is one of the bigger parts of the game, so therefore it's very hard to figure out what gems to put on certain monsters to make them more efficient and to make them work better. So I basically kind of broke it down into like a quick little videos to show you guys what you guys should be looking for in gems, as well as some gem basics. So we're just going to go ahead and pull this up here, and hopefully you guys can see my screen here, but we're going to basically go over the square gem first. So square gems only come in, or the only crit or types of gems that come in square gems is going to be the crit rate gems. So you can only find the crit rate gems in square slots. Then you can go into the diamond or the triangle shapes. The triangle shape here, the only one that you'll find in triangle is crit damage gems. So crit damage gems only come in triangles. And then the last one here is the diamond. So resist gems only come in diamonds. That's not supposed to say diamonds. I mean squares. Let's go ahead and change that real quick. Diamonds. So resist gems only in diamonds, crit damage gems in triangles, and crit rate gems in squares. So it's basically right there for your three shapes. In general, I recommend everyone to build a monster that has one of each type, just because it'll be easier for you guys to find that particular shape later on in the game. And as you guys run B10 and B11, you're more likely to encounter better rate gems with all types of shapes. So that way you're not limited to finding, let's say, a square gem that's only attack. So the gem colors and set bonus, I just wanted to go over the four main ones here. There are other ones such as the life set, the leech set, the siphon sets, etc. But we'll take a look at some of those other ones here later. So the ruin is percent crit damage, so that's going to increase your damage by a base 40%, which is obviously some really good extra damage. If you have a 100% chance to crit and you add the crit damage there, you're adding a little bit more damage. Substantially higher damage. Really good for attacker types, really good for basically any monster that's in the Titans mode, as well as the arena, just to one-shot monsters. Valor is percent attack. Valor is actually a little bit better, I think, in my opinion, for Titans, just because you can kind of offset some of your other stats if you're using like attack crit rate. An extra Valor set will give you some extra attack in there, and the extra attack will definitely, go a long way. So it's up to you if you want to use crit damage gems or Valor gems for the Titans. I personally like Valor a little bit more, just like Valor with some really high crit damage substats. So that's generally what I go for, just because I'd rather have an extra 20% attack and then have crit damage substats than to do the opposite there, just because it's harder to find ruin gems with attack substats. Intuition is percent crit rate, so it'll give you a base 20% extra percent chance to crit if you have an intuition set, which is really good. The crit damage gems actually work really well in the intuition set because you are going to be giving up some crit rate for that extra crit damage. It's essentially making up for the lack of a ruin set. So you can essentially make your monsters like attack crit damage, and it'll kind of work like a ruin set, just like a little bit a cheaper option and a little bit easier to build for with high crit rate. The conviction gems very much sought out for the arenas. Definitely recommended basically there for all of your monsters that you're looking to have them resist certain types of attacks. All right, so now we're coming into the creme of the crop, and this is attack gems. This is what you're going to look for in attack gems, and you should prioritize them as such, listed here on the right. So attack gems, it doesn't matter what set you have. You can go on a broken set or a bonus set. You can pair them up how you want them to, but unbroken sets are always going to be better even if you don't have a bonus set. So if you're building, a monster, it's better to have him on a broken set with really high stats than to have a really crappy, stats mon with a bonus set. So for attack gems, you're going to be looking for percent crit rate. So this gem here on the left is an example. Has crit rate is plus 27%. And then the second substat you're going to look for is crit damage. So this one has a little bit of crit damage. Crit damage will always come in smaller amounts in attack gems and basically every other gem. So this is why I say intuition sets are really good, because intuition sets you can get a crit damage gem, and it can have really high attack substats. So you can kind of make up for it, and I'll show you guys that later on. But for attack gems, look for crit rate as the main substat, and then look for crit damage as the secondary substat, resist as the third substat, and then the rest can basically follow after, which is percent HP, percent defense, and then flat attack if you can't find any other one of these, or if you want to prioritize flat attack, and then everything else kind of goes after that. Another example is this other attack gem down here has 13% crit damage and 14% crit rate. Again, we're kind of prioritizing the crit rate and the crit damage, just because the attack there plus the bonus will mean that you'll be doing a lot more damage. So these are just kind of two examples of what you're going to look for. The gem typing up here, this Gem of Armor, this one's really good for attackers in Titans because it comes in with a little extra defense and you're still getting that ruin, kind of crit damage bonus there. So look for those types of gems. I only covered the first four up there just because, these are the easier gems to find in the story. So for you beginners, this is kind of like, your priority list, how you're going to, want to look for your gems. The higher gems here, like the Gem of Armor, Gem of Zeal, etc., those are kind of found in dragons or in, basically in dragons or in Colossus. So they're going to be more for mid game to end game players. But these are the stats you're going to look for attack gems. So, just to clarify, percent crit rate, percent crit damage, percent resist, and then percent everything else, and then flat for every other substat. So that's just something to look for. Hopefully that helps you guys out there who are looking like, oh, I don't know if this attack gem good. Should I use it? Should I not use it? Essentially what you want to do is you want to kind of prioritize them in this percentage way, with highest substat being the crit rate, just because having a higher crit rate means you're going to do more damage. So, that's kind of how it goes. So HP gems is the next one here. Same thing, you're going to focus on the crit rate, you're going to focus on the crit damage, and you're going to focus on the resist, and then everything else afterwards. An example of that would be this gem here, this diamond gem here. It comes with defense plus 12%, attack 6.5%, crit damage plus 12%, and crit rate is 20%. So this is a pretty decent gem, I think, because it's percentage for all substats. It doesn't have any resist, but it has a little extra attack. So even if I wanted to, let's say, give it to an attacker who just constantly dies in, let's say the Wood Titan, for example, he is basically a kind of go all out type monster just because, you're gonna just be doing as much damage as you can until you die. So that's a really good gem to have just because you got that crit damage, which makes up for the lack of a ruin set. You got that crit rate, which will make sure that you're getting some, extra crit damage there. So you can do HP attack if you're looking for some extra crit rate for that Titan monster. This is also another really good gem for HP aggressors. So this is why I kind of wanted to go over this particular gem, because HP aggressors rely heavily on HP sets. So you're getting that HP 20% bonus, and then you're getting the HP main bonus, and then you're getting some crit damage to make up for the lack of a ruin set. So you'll have the best of both lives here. So having a higher HP pool plus a little bit of crit damage plus some really high crit rate means that the HP aggressor is going to do some really good hits when he lands. And for HP aggressors, it's the same thing, kind of like as an attacker. All you're doing is, instead of building attack, you're building HP. This Gem of Zeal down here, I put this one up here just because I wanted to show you guys the bonuses. So this Gem of Zeal is actually really good for ruin, kind of like offsets. If you don't have a good ruin set, you can also use a Gem of Zeal. Attack plus 15% and crit rate is 15%. So they help you build monsters a little bit more balanced. Really good here. But same thing, priority, crit rate, crit damage, and then resist. So pretty good there. Defense gems, same thing. You're going to use them kind of like as defense aggressors. High defense, some crit rate. The attack there is not anything particularly good for a defense aggressor, but just something to roll later on. Now that you have the ticket substats, you can use that to kind of change that substat. This other gem up here, same thing as Ruin, is a crit rate plus 26.5%, so really good. So prioritizing, same thing, crit rate, crit damage, resist, and then everything else. So that's essentially what you're looking for. The crit rate gems here, you have as an example here, a leech. The way you want to prioritize, you want to prioritize percent attack, then percent crit damage, then resist, and then everything else. So if you look at this gem here, it has some really high crit damage. We did not have any attack here, but I still kept it because it has really high crit damage. And crit damage on a leech gem is actually very rare, so this is a pretty good gem. It's got some resist there, which is the next substat. HP and defense are flat, so it doesn't really matter. But here's another gem that you should definitely consider as being worthy to build. It's crit rate plus 50%, 54% of course, as the main substat. And then attack is 15%, so prioritizing attack. Then crit damage, an extra 4%. And then resist, 12%. And then HP, which is everything else. So those are kind of like some examples of what you want to look for in a crit rate gem. So attack, crit damage, resist, and then everything else. The next one to go over is the crit damage gems, and again, these ones are a little bit more harder to build or harder to use and harder to kind of like place into your monsters because you're giving up other stats that will help you survive, things like HP, defense, and attack basically. But there are some crit damage gems that you can build and that you can kind of focus on. But for crit damage gems, you're going to focus on the percent crit rate as hoping to have a higher percent chance to crit. So this bottom crit damage here has 13% chance to crit. Unfortunately, I never really find any good crit damage gems with high crit rate, but I do get some with attack. So the next subset you want to build is attack and then defense and HP. So these crit damage gems, both of them here have, this one has 19.5% attack and this other one has an extra 20% attack. So to make up for a lack of an extra attack gem, you're kind of wanting to find some really high subsets in attack and still maintaining a decent percent chance to crit. So this is why I put these ones in here, just because you're never gonna find that perfect crit damage gem with 30% chance to crit and then an extra 20% chances for attack. So this is kind of like what you want to look for. But if you manage to find something that's in between like attack and crit rate, then that's great. Definitely settle for it. Again, the crit damage gem is only usable if you don't have, let's say, a third attack gem. For most attackers, you want to build them, attack, 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 like, with this type of substat here. So, if you can't find 3 attack gems, but you can find 2 attack gems and then a crit damage gem, then that's pretty good to build. I only use the crit damage gems if I don't have a ruin set, just because, that crit damage will help me go a little bit longer in the damage, just because I'm kind of making up for the fact that I don't have another attack gem. But again, these are kind of like, pick and choose, use it at your own risk. They're not really that great if you're using them in arena. I'd rather have crit damage as a substat. That's kind of what I always tend to go for. But yeah, so, looking back at this crit rate gem over here with that crit damage, yeah, it's a pretty nice gem. I kind of picked and choose what I wanted just to show you guys just as a widespread. I didn't pick like my best gems or anything like that, but these are some of the stats that you should be looking for. So last but not least, we're going to look over the recovery gems. Recovery gems are kind of they're weird, and I picked this one here particularly to show you guys because the things you want to look for are resist, HP, defense, and then everything else, flat of everything else. But I find that in running golems, I find a lot of these recovery gems with crit damage. And they're always really high crit damage, or they come in with like really high attack and really high crit damage substats. So it's like some of the better substats are always on recovery gems, and it's just kind of, how they make it. To make it harder for you to find good recovery gems, and likewise to make it harder for you to find good attack gems with crit damage and crit rate and etc. So this, something to consider when you're farming gems. You're gonna look at one and you're gonna be like, "Damn it! Why does this recovery gem have all the good substats?" It's just kind of how it goes. So again, recovery gems: percent resist, HP, defense, and recovery HP and defense. And that's basically all of your gem kind of you know, things that you want to look for, things you want to prioritize. So we'll go over them again really quick one last time. You guys can pause the video and take a look at what you need if you want to take a screenshot it, or if you want to hit us up on the Discord. I do have these available on there as well. So just go ahead and you know, at me on the Discord, and I can point you to help you out, you know, knowing what gems to build. But in general, you know, get your gems to 12. That way you know what your subsets are, and then you can say yes, it's worth it to get to 15, or get rid of it. But for attack gems, crit rate, crit damage, resist, and everything else. For HP gems, it's going to be percent crit rate, crit damage, resist, everything else. Defense, same thing, crit rate, crit damage, resist, and everything else. The crit rate gems, attack, crit damage, resist, HP, defense, and flat attack, and whatever else. Crit damage gems, percent crit rate, attack, or defense, or HP if it's, you know, defensive aggressor or HP aggressor, etc. And then resist, and then everything else. The recovery gems, same thing. It's going to be resist, HP, defense, and everything else. For attacker types, like I said, you want to build them triple attack just because you want to maximize that damage. If you can't do triple attack with, like, you know, 3 gems that have 20% chance to crit, then don't worry about it. You know, do attack, attack, crit rate. That's also the best kind of, or the secondary best typing that you can put on your gems, just because it'll be easier for you guys to do a little bit more damage based on the crit rate. But you know, it all depends on what gems you have. For HP aggressors, same thing. You want to look for high HP set, or ruin set with that high crit damage and high crit rate. So those are really good. Definitely get some resist on those HP aggressors too if you're going to use them in arena. Otherwise, you're going to get basically destroyed. But I do know that crit rate's broken right now in the game. So, you know, it's kind of one of those, do I really go for it or not? But personally, I haven't been doing a lot of arena the last like 4 weeks because the crit rate is still bugged. So yeah, there's that. The defense, aggressors and defense, you know, gems here, you can kind of use them, you know, mix and match. So if you have, let's say, an attack, and you know, your monster's dying, if you have a triple attack, you can throw in like a defense gem like this. This is more for like Titans, you know, attack and then crit rate, and then the defense, because the defense helps out actually a lot in Titans. At least for survivability. Like I said, you want to have your monsters have at least 3,000 defense. So this other gem up top here would be more for a defense aggressor. This one would be more something more that you could use in, like, you know, Titans or somewhere else. So just something to keep in mind. The crit rate gems, for the defense, same thing. Like I said, crit rate, crit damage, resist, and everything else. And then crit rate gems, definitely, like I said, they help out really, really well if you're building a monster and attack crit rate. It'll help you to do some extra damage. Just make sure that you guys find some crit damage substats on those crit rate gems and an attack, just because they'll help you kind of like balance off your monster a little bit more. Of course, the goal always being you want to try to get as much crit rate as possible with as much crit damage as possible. So, you know, there's that. And that's basically it, guys, for the gems and the basics. I just kind of wanted to make it really quickly, really easy for you guys. Let's take a look at some of the other gem sets, bonuses, and things like that. Hopefully Nox doesn't crash on me here. Looks like it did. But essentially, you can find pugilist sets, which give you a 20% chance to stun, as you guys can see in there. You have your leech gems, which you know, essentially recover health back depending on how much damage you deal. You have your gem of zeal, which gives you a 15% attack and 15% crit rate. So, you know, there's those other types of gems. You can kind of basically click on them and it'll tell you which one does what. But just something to keep in mind. You know, if you're a beginner though, you should definitely be focusing on just these 4. And for the majority of the time in the game, these are the ones you're going to be building. Zeal is actually, like I said, really good. You can do HP attack. It works really well in you know, Titans. So, but yeah. So anyways, guys, that's basically it for my little gem guide here. I want to keep it nice, short, and sweet. But definitely hit me up on Discord if you guys need help with your gems. And of course, as always, let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have any other suggestions or comments or anything like that that might help the rest of the MSL players. We're always here trying to grow together as a community and trying to learn some more about the game itself. But if you guys need any help, don't feel free to reach out. Anyways, guys, be on the lookout for some more videos I'll be uploading here in the next couple of weeks. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, guys.